I'm not John Irving Bloom, but this is A Century of Cinema, a presentation we offer at the Historic Plaza Theatre on the first and third Wednesdays of each month, except December. The first ever Academy Awards ceremony was a private dinner held at the Roosevelt Hotel on May 16, 1929, with an audience of 270 guests. The oldest of the four major entertainment awards, Oscar was originally created in 1928. In 1930, this event was broadcast on radio. The Oscars television debut came in 1953.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you are looking west on Hollywood Boulevard. Perhaps population changes have swung the motion picture industry away from this historic street somewhat, but it will always remain a little bit in nostalgia and memory, something like 42nd Street and Broadway. Here are the stands, and there is the marquee. And down there in front of the theater, a group of people still coming in, Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh, Margin Gower Champion, Leslie Caron and her husband, Mr. Hormel. Here in the Pantages tonight is the world's most glamorous audience, nearly 3,000 strong, all waiting to see the Oscars handed out, and almost all are either rooting for friends or keeping their fingers crossed for themselves. Perhaps if you look closely, and there you can see some of your favorites at the screen. Most of the nominees will be present. Some, of course, as you've heard, are in New York. I see Merle Oberon sitting down there just to the right corner of the screen.
Over its 93-year history, only 3 films have ever won the top 5 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay. The first was 1934's It Happened One Night, starring Ohio native Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert.
Here comes the car.
Okay, now watch me. I'm going to use number 1. Keep your eye on that thumb, maybe, and see what happens.
Got my eye on the thumb.
Something must have gone wrong. Oh. Try number 2.
When you get to 100, wake me up.
I don't think I'll write that book after all.
Yeah, think of all the fun you had, though. Do you mind if I try?
You? Don't make me laugh.
Oh, you're such a smart aleck. Nobody knows anything but you. I'll stop a car, and I won't use my thumb.
What are you going to do?
It's a system all my own.
The third and last film to achieve this distinction was 1991's Silence of the Lambs. On this chapter, we will delve into the second film to win the top 5 Oscars from 1975, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, starring Jack Nicholson and Louise Fletcher as the iconic, austere Nurse Ratched. Cuckoo's Nest features a supporting cast of Will Sampson, Danny DeVito, Sidney Lassick, William Redfield, Christopher Lloyd, and Brad Dourif, all in their film debuts. Redfield had an extensive career in theater and television dating to 1936, but never filmed. During filming of Cuckoo's Nest, A doctor on the set diagnosed Redfield with leukemia when he noticed symptoms, and at the age of 49, he succumbed to the disease the year after Cuckoo's Nest was released. Counterculture figure Ken Kesey wrote Cuckoo's Nest in 1962. It was an immediate commercial and critical success. Following the publication of Cuckoo's Nest, Kesey began hosting parties called happenings with other bohemian and literary figures. This group became known as the Merry Pranksters and included the use of LSD and other hallucinogens. The de facto band at these parties was the Grateful Dead. Though a graduate of the University of Oregon, while at Stanford completing graduate work in 1960, Kesey participated in government-funded studies involving mescaline and LSD. It's no wonder he eventually was arrested in 1965 for marijuana possession and imprisoned for 5 months. Upon release, he returned to Oregon and maintained a secluded low profile until his death in 2001 at age 66. Kesey's other great work was Sometimes a Great Notion, released in 1964. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was a Broadway play in 1963 and 64, starring Kirk Douglas in the role of R.P. McMurphy, portrayed by Jack Nicholson in the film. Kirk Douglas bought the film rights and spent a decade trying to bring the story to the big screen. Eventually, he sold the rights to his son, Michael. Michael succeeded in getting the film produced, but by then his father was 60 and considered too old for the McMurphy role. Gene Hackman, James Caan, Marlon Brando, and Burt Reynolds all turned down the role. Ultimately, 37-year-old Jack Nicholson was cast in the lead role. Michael Douglas was introduced to the work of Czechoslovak filmmaker Milos Forman, who, after flying to California and discussing the script page by page, was hired. In 2012, Milos wrote an article explaining it wasn't just literature, it was real life. The Communist Party was my nurse ratchet, telling me what I could and couldn't do, what I was or was not allowed to say, where I was or was not allowed to go, even who I was and was not. That pretty much described Louise Fletcher in this film. Actually, Danny DeVito was the first to be cast, reprising his role from an off-Broadway 1971 production. Douglas sat by a used car salesman on a flight. The guy's father sold used cars to Native Americans. Douglas told his fellow passenger he wanted a big guy to play the chief. 6 months later, Douglas gets a call telling him his father just sold a car to the biggest Indian he'd ever seen, and Will Sampson's film career began.
All right. So go.
Thank you. Juicy fruit.
Boy, you sly son of a bitch, Chief. You hear me, too?
Yeah, you bet.
I'll be goddamn, Chief. And they all think you're deaf and dumb. Jesus Christ. You fooled them, Chief. You fooled them all. God damn. What are we doing in here, Chief? Huh?
Incidentally, the boat captain in the film is the guy who gave Michael Douglas the introduction to Will Sampson. 6 actresses were offered the role of Nurse Ratched over 12 months before Louise Fletcher landed the part. Her pay for 11 weeks, $10,000 before taxes. Ellen Burstyn, Anne Bancroft, Geraldine Page, and Angela Lansbury all turned down the role, likely because of the salary. The initial budget was $2 million. Only Nicholson had a significant salary. Ultimately, the total production budget came to $4.4 million. A co-executive producer with Michael Douglas put up his company, Fantasy Records, as collateral for the extra funds needed to complete the film. The box office was over $163 million. Released in November 1975, it was the second highest grossing film in 1975 and the highest grossing film of 1976. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was one of only 3 films to ever win the top 5 Oscars. Be sure to visit the gorgeously restored Plaza Theatre with our 38-foot wide movie screen, digital projection, and a world-class new surround sound system. Visit myplazatheater.com for showtimes and events. The Historic Plaza Theatre is located in beautiful downtown Miamisburg with unlimited free parking, shops to browse, and fabulous nearby dining options. Hope to see you at the Plaza. See you next time.